Hey everyone, this is Aubrey.
This is Melody.
And this is Mostly Macabre.
Welcome back.
So, what's new, everybody? I got a story to tell you, but what's new in your lives?
Okay. So today was actually a very eventful day for me. I drove home yesterday, Saturday, because it was my cousin's birthday. So we had like a dinner at my mom's house 3 hours away from here. I drove there, thought I was going to come back yesterday, Saturday, fell asleep, didn't come back until today, went home, was there for an hour, and then I drove here.
It's a lot of driving.
Yeah, I'm actually very, very tired. So that's been my weekend.
Well, I'm old. So, all right. So I went to the doctor and I did like my checkup or whatever. And I told the doctor, I've been getting like bruises or whatever. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's a vitamin thing or something. She does my blood work. Now I have high cholesterol, which I've known. I've had it for years. It's genetic. It doesn't matter. I eat wheat. I eat, even working out, like it's never changed at all. I just have high cholesterol. So they do my blood work, all that stuff. They freaking call me they did it on a Friday. They called me like Monday, like, oh, we want you to come and go over your blood work.
That's not a good sign.
Anxious, okay?
Yeah.
They got me in the next day. So I'm sitting here panicking like secretly because I'm like, I don't want to put it in the universe. So I didn't tell anyone. I'm just like, all right. I'm like sweating. My palms are sweaty. I'm having like
knees weak, arms are heavy.
I'm having yes. Exactly. Like, I'm having an internal panic attack, okay? So, no one really knew what was going on except for, actually, no one knew, but the only people that got to witness my little mental breakdown are my coworkers. So,
only them.
That's the thing about coworkers.
They're always there. So I go in, and I'm like, oh my God, she's going to tell me I have leukemia. Oh my God, I'm dying.
God.
Well, I was talking about my bruising, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because I have to go to the worst thing. I'm like, it's a brain tumor. Like, I have to go to the worst scenario because that's who I am as a human.
I am too.
I was literally, I had to change my shirt before I went in. I was, sweating. I was a wreck. So I go in, and it's really not that big a deal. One, my cholesterol. So now I'm on cholesterol medicine. Okay, I already knew I had high cholesterol. Why'd people make me come in here and almost have a heart attack? Clearly.
That was it?
Well, no. And then I also have, so this is why I'm old. I have a vitamin D deficiency, a B12 deficiency.
We all have vitamin B deficiencies.
And, well, apparently it's really, it came up as abnormal or something. I have to do an injection for the B12, and then I have to take vitamin D. So, after I take all that, and then
Don't people do B12 just for fun, though? Because it, gives you energy? Yeah.
That's, I guess, but
for funsies.
But I'm just sitting there and I'm staring at her. I was like, but why? Why is all of a sudden, why am I so deficient out of nowhere? And she's like, well, you're getting older.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No,
what?
you didn't.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Can I see your ID, lady? I was just like, oh, okay. Then I was of course, going on with the physical and everything. We're talking, and it's apparently, I also learned that your eggs are geriatric at 35. Geriatric.
I knew that, yeah.
Geriatric. Mm-hmm. That's harsh.
That's a rough term.
So between eating vitamin D, B12, cholesterol medication.
Your eggs are geriatric.
And my eggs are geriatric. I was not. And my daughter started middle school. I was not okay.
Oh my goodness.
I was not okay. I literally had a little mini mental breakdown. I just felt so old and so I didn't even know what to do with myself. I was at work before the appointment. Okay, I was already not okay to the point where my coworker and her another one of our they were in our office. There was three of us in the office, and she's like, "Should I drink a soda? Should I not drink a soda?" I was like, "For fuck's sake, drink the soda!"
Some of us has real problems. Okay.
I couldn't even exactly. I couldn't even keep it in.
Some of us have geriatric eggs.
Some of us are geriatric. My geriatric heart can't handle it. No, I was just and she just stared at me. She's like, okay, I'll drink this soda.
You're like, look, I might switch from being an employee here to a patient here in a minute. Okay?
Any minute
Someone
now.
get me a room, preferably one with padded walls. A really quiet one. No, so I told them, I was like, okay, so they were dying laughing because they're older than me. They were cracking up, and I was like, I'm not okay. This makes me, I was like, I'm not saying I want another baby, but I like knowing that I have an option. Like, geriatric, I feel like they should really change that phrase. I
agree. It's harsh.
It was harsh, especially like.
It's rude.
And like, well, you're getting older. I don't know. So I was not okay. I like texted my friend who's the same age as me, and I was like, apparently we're geriatric. You need to call me right now. But she was cracking up, and I'm like, I was not okay. I said, maybe when you're in the hot seat, you'll feel it like I am. But yeah, so that was my little mental.
However, a lot of women are having children older and older nowadays.
I mean, I have my two.
And you can also always freeze your eggs if you truly want to have more children.
That seems like a lot of work.
I agree.
But like...
And it sounds expensive. I've never looked into it, but it sounds expensive.
It's like hysteria. It's like hysteria. Like, do I really want another baby? No. Like, I don't. I'm fine. I'm good. Do I want to start over? But just being told, like, no, you can't.
I'm at a very ripe age, and I still don't even know if I want one child.
Well, be careful. You'll be geriatric before you know it.
I know.
Oh, my God.
Time goes actually fast.
It really does.
I went with a dog, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
So.
But no, I just felt like...
Also, everybody should know that today's Benji's home day. It's been 1 year.
A little furry child. Expensive.
He's the most expensive $75 I've ever spent.
Yeah. Get a dog. They're even more expensive. Oh, my God.
Worth every penny. I love that baby.
You won't say that once you have a dog. I'm just kidding.
Kidding. I actually house sat again recently, and I remembered why I don't want a dog ever again. Because they wake you up at 1:30 in the morning wanting to go outside and pee, and Benji never does that to me. Benji just goes on his own. He goes to his litter box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never have to walk him in the rain or in the cold or 5 times a day. Cats are the best.
And you can go away for like 4 days and they'll be okay.
I mean,
I don't know if I should be airing that out, but no, you can do a long weekend. As long as you put a big bowl of water and a big bowl of food, they're good. They're sufficient.
If I leave my
Not
dog
Benji.
for
Benji's
4 hours,
bougie. He has this human grade food that is like refrigerated, and then I have to microwave it at 15
seconds. No. See, you're making your life more difficult. My animals get dry food.
You're part of the problem now.
Yeah. You're making life hard for yourself.
I treat that cat like a fucking actual child.
Oh, God.
I'm that person.
Nope, I like that my cat's like, no, you don't get wet food unless it's like your birthday, and I don't even know when that is. No, I'm just kidding. No, my animals get dry food so that I can put a big bowl down.
On his birthday, he gets drugs. I got him this little like pineapple shaped thing full of catnip, and he loves it.
Oh yeah, my cat gets catnip at Christmas. Yep. The herbs.
Special cat herbs. They love
cat
that
herbs.
stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything fun lately on TV?
I actually watched, I think it was Hulu, Children of the Underground. Did you guys?
I have not seen it yet. It was good. I've seen it pop up, but I haven't actually watched it.
It was interesting. It was definitely interesting. It's about, like, basically it's like in the 80s and before, like how the court system, family court. And actually here in Florida, it's pretty similar still, but... Let's not even open up that door. But anyway, about how that started, the Children of the Underground, where moms who were either if you could prove that your child was being sexually abused, and this Children of the Underground, like, group would, like, hide you because the court system was still allowing these fathers to see their children. And it was like, it's really screwed up. It's like... No, don't take your kid and run off. But in those desperate times, it's like you sit there thinking, what would you do? It's interesting to look at it and watch it and to see, like, just how twisted the system is. And
I hate it.
Oh, yeah. It's not a feel-good, but it was interesting to watch. It was definitely really interesting, and especially because, like, that's when we were younger. It was the 80s. Like, we were growing up in this time, like... And I remember,
I wasn't born yet, but...
Oh, my gosh. Me and Kevin were.
Okay, Miss Thing. All right.
Just kidding.
But, yeah, so it was interesting. I thought it was very good. It was about, like, I guess what's her name? Oh, my God, I forgot what her name was. Something Faye. She was, like, the big leader of it. But she kind of, like... She started... Like, I think her intentions were always good. But it kind of shows like the whole progression of like her starting it and like it taking off and like other people joining this group and how she kind of like she went rogue to the point where they had to ask her to like step aside and not use the name because
So
they
it
were
started
like,
off as a good thing and then kind of went dark?
I think she went rogue. Like one of the things that they would always require to help people that they would like hide these women and children was they wanted proof, and you could submit your stuff, but they would go over it and decide together as a group. Like, all right, like it had to be like children that actually had medical forms showing they had gonorrhea. You know, like horrible, like obvious proof that you think, oh my. They really wanted to see, okay, the court failed you. This is why we're helping. And then she started getting a little looser with the rules, which you can't do because there are people who will lie and say, oh, this happened.
She probably just wanted to help as many people as possible.
I think the intentions were good, but you can't go rogue. And like it's interesting to watch the whole build up. Plus,
that's so hard though.
Plus her own, I think what really did it for her was like her own experience. And then once it was kind of
she couldn't be neutral.
Well, I think once she was proven right and it was like so open that she was proven right, that's when I think she went rogue, where I think she just thought like, no, like I am so right. Like before maybe there was doubt, but like once it was proven, she was just like, she went off. But it was, I don't know, I don't think she ever had evil intentions. But then it also showed it's kind of like, it has that background, and it also shows like kids being interviewed, which I don't agree with the way she interviewed kids at all. But again, back in the 80s, interviewing children was in its infancy. So it was like literally all these people, like there's a way to interview children. There's a way, especially because they're traumatized, they're young. There's like, it's a specialty that you have to learn. We know that now, but back then it was kind of like experimental, you know? So she would interview these kids and she was like, not, sometimes it was really gentle and other times you're like, oh my God, it's like an interrogation. These kids are going to shut down and just agree. Yeah. So like her intentions were good, but it wasn't always right. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. There's just a lot there to take in. It was a good watch, like interesting wise, not a feel good.
I think that's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you gotta have
There's certain things that I have to save for when I'm in the right headspace.
Yes, the right mind space for it. Like, especially when it comes to kids, like I just said before, when it comes to things with children, it's harder for me. You know, like it definitely, like sometimes I just can't stomach it. But, so I actually started watching that and then stopped and then I went back. Like
Is it a documentary or
it's like a docuseries? I can't remember how many episodes there are, but it was pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting just to see just how, I don't know, just between the system and just all of it. It was very, very, it was an interesting watch. So I do recommend that. But have you guys watched anything new lately?
So yesterday, whenever we were home at my mom's house, we watched Selling the OC on Netflix.
Nice.
With me and my cousin and my brother, who actually gets very into these things. And we watched almost the entire season in one sitting.
Nice.
So that was fun. It's not a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty at all. I love this shit. I love the drama. I love looking at the luxurious homes that hopefully one day, maybe this life, maybe another life, I'll live in one day. Oh,
that's awesome.
The homes are amazing. They're breathtaking.
You sound like my mom. My mom likes to watch Beverly Hills Housewives. None of the other ones. She just liked the Beverly Hills one. She's like,
the views over there.
Like, seriously, like my mom, who is so not a girly girl at all. I always told her, like, since I was a kid, like, you put the man in woman, because she's just like, she's feminine, but she's just not a girly girl, you know? She's like, it's like watching aliens. I don't even understand these women. She's like fascinated watching this interaction.
It is. It's fascinating. I get it, because watching Selling Sunset and Selling the OC is similar. Like the views, like the way these girls are out there. It's just, I love the drama. I don't know. I'm sure it's
so
all
foreign
fake,
to us,
but I just love it. I love seeing the way they live, the way that they dress, and I'm just like over here feeling part of it for 45 minutes or however fucking long the episode is.
However long the whole season was.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I love it. And then I just thought it was great that my brother also loves it. He was so into it. Like, me and my cousin are watching it, and he's just as into it as we are. We're all, like, talking shit about such and such and what they're doing. Like, oh, she's such a bitch. Like, there you go, making it about yourself again.
Just videotape him secretly. That's hilarious.
And then, but before that, we also watched this movie that my cousin found for us and suggested called, it's in Spanish. I don't know if they also have it in English. It did have subtitles, English subtitles, called Los Ojos de Julia, which is Julia's Eyes. And it's by this director called, what's his name? I had found it earlier.
Is it scary?
It's kind of a thriller. I thought it was going to be kind of scary and like ghosty type stuff, but it's not. It was more of a thriller.
Like a psychological thriller?
Yes.
Ooh,
like
I like those.
So many twists and turns. And it was just really, really good. And I highly recommend it. I didn't realize that the director is a Mexican director. I need to find his name. Guillermo del Toro, who apparently is like a really famous director. And now I want to check out more of his stuff because I never knew that he was a hotshot director. And this movie was amazing. Because usually horror movies can be very predictable.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, why did you go down there?
Don't
and
run
then
that way.
they get killed. Yeah, exactly. And they tend to be very predictable and a lot of times can be very disappointing. Highly recommend Los Ojos de Julia, Julia's Eyes, whatever language you want to watch it in. Excellent movie. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Nice. I actually just caught up on Stranger Things, too. Me and Bella watched it together.
Did you finish it?
I finished it. I finished it.
What do you think?
Well, I already had started watching it like years ago, and then I fell behind. So I was like, all right, I got to catch up because Bella is like so into it. And at first, when we started watching it, though, she was really bossy. She was like, "Put your phone down." Well, and I go to
because she wants you to pay attention.
Put your phone down. Watch this. Watch that. Did you see that? And she's like quizzing me in the middle of it. I'm like, Bella, calm down. And then like I was falling asleep because we watched like 4 episodes in a row, and I had to go to bed. And she was like, "Wake up! Wake up! You can't fall asleep. We're gonna watch the whole season." And I was like, Bella, this is becoming homework. Please stop. She calmed down after that. But I did finally finish it. I loved it. It was good. It was definitely, I like that it's like, well, I like everything about it. And I like that I could watch it with Bella and my kids are like totally into it because they both finished it already. But, I don't know. I like that it's like the 80s and like.
I love it.
Some
I
of the references they make, but be kind, rewind. Like, we're picking up on that. I kind of look at my kids like, do you even know what that means? You know, like you love the kids nowadays, they love Stranger Things, but do you get what they're throwing down? Like,
yeah. Do you even know what rewinding is?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what a cassette tape is?
So I like that aspect of it too, like where they'd say certain things that I'd like get a chuckle out of, and I'm like, I wonder if my kids even know what that is, like, because it's supposed to be the 80s. So I don't know. It was good though. I enjoyed it.
To me, it's always very difficult to find a series where the episode, or like, for example, the 4th season is actually better than some of the earlier seasons. Because, for example, I think it was the 3rd season. I was kind of starting to
Bella said
say goodbye. I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know about the next season. I don't know if I'm going to come back and watch this franchise anymore. And then I started hearing all the hype about, like, no, season 4 is so good. It's really good. And so I started watching it again. I was like, holy shit. They really did it. And
Bella
they reeled me back in.
Yeah, the 3rd season.
That's
she was
funny
like,
that Bella said that, too.
Because she was, yeah, she's like, the 3rd season. She didn't say those exact words, but she was just like,
Yeah.
the 4th season's better. And I was like, okay. Like,
And that almost never happens. It's usually like a decline.
Yeah.
A steady decline.
Usually once it starts to go downhill, you're like, all right, wrap it up.
Yeah.
But, no, it was good. I enjoyed
Did you see the I Just Killed My Dad?
I did.
Yes.
Very interesting.
That was interesting. I forgot
It
I
was
watched
good.
that. Yeah. Not a feel good.
Not
Also
a
not
good
really
at all.
good.
No.
That poor kid.
I really felt like I knew what was going on at the beginning. I was like, well, he's guilty. Obviously, he did it.
You know what's interesting?
There was so
when
much
I was
more.
But when I was watching it, it's funny because like their perspective, like they started to be like he was so flat and he was this. My brother's really flat when he talks, and like people will take my brother wrong because he's flat. Like he's kind of like very matter of fact and flat, and you don't know like where he's coming from. So when they were talking about how flat he was, and I get what they're saying, like on a, you know, like a certain aspect, like where they're coming from, they're used to seeing criminals like just not care. I never get the vibe of him not caring. I get the vibe of he's got like a weird personality.
I just
Or,
felt like his soul was crushed.
But that's what I'm saying. He didn't.
He had no interaction.
He had no interaction.
He was home,
he was beaten down
quote,
emotionally.
homeschooled.
You know, like, but I didn't right off the rip feel like, oh, this kid is screwy. You know, and then as you go on, I go, oh, that's why. Like, I kind of right off the rip felt like something is already hitting me as something's off. Like, and also, like, I feel like they're judging too harshly. But maybe because my brother has that weird personality where, like, where people judge harshly, so I just have a different perspective of it. But I felt like...
You're more empathetic to it, towards it because of that.
Because I felt like, wow, you guys for being professionals are really harsh on this kid. I mean, at least he called and told you. You know, like...
Yeah.
Like, if he was really trying to be sneaky, he'd take off. Like, literally, he had nothing would track him there. Like... He didn't even put him in school. He could have taken off and started new.
That's so true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. He could have just been like, deuces, out.
Yeah.
That one was hard to watch, too.
Yeah, it was very sad. It's also, that highlights the flaws in the system as well. How he just slipped through. But that was a good watch, though.
And the Manti Teo, I watched that too.
Oh, yeah, I watched that too. That was interesting.
I was like, man, I feel bad for that guy.
I did too.
And then I Googled it and I'm like, oh, he made $10 million in the NFL. He's all right.
I feel a little better now, but I still felt bad for him.
He's doing fine.
You know what made me feel bad? Like, I get, like, everyone's so harsh. Like, of course, everyone's like, how did he not know? You got to remember, he was a kid.
It was a different
young.
time,
He was
too.
a 21-year-old
Like, once they start
Mormon
putting it into perspective
Yeah.
of, like, the date that this was, like, the time and date, like, how catfishing wasn't really, like, a whole thing back then yet.
But not just that, though. Like, it's like, oh, how can you be so foolish? Well, if you really look at it, he's still technically a child in a way. Like, he went, and he's not like...
He was trying to see the best in everyone, I think.
I could just see, like, it's easier to fool a child. And that, yes, he was an adult. He was in his 20s or young. He was 20 or something like that. But if you look at it, I mean, his world was football, his family, religion, and then he went straight into college. And like, it's not like he was, I mean, yes, he was out there meeting people, but it's not like he had those normal... He was free to do whatever and like kind of figure people out. Like that's probably part of the reason why he made that connection online as well, because it worked for his schedule, which I think he even said. So like if you really look at like, I mean, of course the media is going to be super harsh, but like it's even worse because it's like when it, like something that could happen to you as a child like is so big, it's so blown up. Like something that might have happened to someone in high school. Okay, you move on, your family knows. It was embarrassing.
But this is like the whole world knew.
Huge. Yeah, and he was really tricked. Yeah, so it was interesting to watch. It was good. I'm glad that, like...
I never even knew about it because I'm not a football person. Like, I don't really follow sports or anything. Yeah. So I never even knew the name or, like, the whole...
I don't follow college football at all, but I remember hearing that name a lot. It's, you know, it's a very unique name, Manti Teo, and then... people talking about it.
I remember it, but I didn't completely. Like follow it. Like I remember hearing like about the whole scandal. Like I remember hearing all those things, but I wasn't like I was having babies at that time. I was not watching sports like religiously like into it. But when I was watching, I'm like, oh, I do remember this. Like because I remember all the like the shit talk, you know, but I didn't like look into it because I didn't care. I was tired breastfeeding and changing diapers. That was like the bottom of my list. Well, today, let's get into it.
What did you bring us today?
What did I bring you today? So I'm going to do a story about the Fatal Attraction killer, Carolyn Wormus.
Okay.
So gather around, children.
Isn't there a movie about this?
Well, there's Fatal Attraction is the movie, but it's the movie was first, and then I think I said to you before I was like, oh, it's what the movie's about. I think I worded it wrong
this movie.
when I was explaining what I was trying to do, but but it got like it was close in the same time as when that movie released, and like you know again the media goes crazy with things, and it was dubbed the Fatal Attraction killer.
So some similarities there.
Yeah. Well,
and you know they always have to coin fun names for these people.
Well, yeah, for titles and headlines and all that. So, all right. So Carolyn Wormus was born January 8th, 1964 in Troy, Michigan, to multimillionaire Thomas A. Wormus and Elizabeth Wormus. Thomas made his fortune by funding the American Way of Life company. I guess it's like an insurance company. So she grew up very well off.
Insurance is a scam.
Exactly. So that's why he's so stinking rich.
We all know that from
His
personal
his
experience.
assets were estimated around 150 million. So I think when I was watching it nowadays, I'd be like in the billions. Like he was freaking loaded. He owned, I think. All right, this is what I looked up. He owned 8 jets, 2 yachts, 15 cars, and multiple estates in Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and New York. The man was freaking loaded. So they lived a life that we do not know.
I only know it through selling the OC.
There you go. I think this guy's even bigger. But in 1970, when Carolyn was 8, her parents filed for divorce, and after 2 years of battling it out, her dad ended up with custody of her and her 2 younger siblings. She was an excellent student growing up. She got great grades. She was involved in a lot of sports like synchronized swimming, tennis, jogging, and skiing.
Rich people sports.
I mean, she had a pool and a tennis court at her house, so like
Synchronized swimming.
Because she has to practice.
exactly synchronized swimming. I'd be kicked off the team. I'd be cannonball.
I can't synchronize standing.
I can't even dive. My leg goes out to the side. I belly flop. Even though I try really hard, it doesn't work for me. Let's see. So, all right. After graduating high school from Seaholm High School in Birmingham, she enrolled in the University of Michigan in 1981, earning a degree in psychology. After that, she moved to New York, where she went to Columbia University and did her master's degree in elementary education. In September of 1987, she began teaching 5th grade at Greenville Elementary School in Scarsdale, New York. While working as a 5th grade teacher, 23-year-old Caroline was assigned a mentor, Paul Solomon. He was 40, and he was the 6th grade teacher at the same school. And he had a wife named Betty Jean. She was also 40, and a daughter, Kristen. She was 16. So one afternoon, I guess Paul used to check in on her a lot and like go visit her in her classroom. And one afternoon, he invited Carolyn to like a restaurant bar that I guess a lot of the teachers go to after work, and for drinks or whatever. And she went, and when she got there, it was just her. So she had said, like, I watched like a documentary on this, and she had said like she doesn't know if he like set it up that way or if just people didn't show up. But it was just them two.
He definitely set it up that way.
That's how I feel too. Pig. I'm just kidding.
Men.
So, they
I know
sat,
nothing
they
about
had
him.
drinks. After a while, it got flirty, and an affair started. I guess she said that she didn't know he was married at first, which I guess if he was planning on cheating, he wouldn't tell her. But she said he didn't wear a ring. But when she did find out, that he told her that him and his wife Betty Jean were in an open marriage and that they were both seeing other people.
It happens.
It does happen. It does. And that's just how they lived their life. So Carolyn stated that she thought that was like the whole concept of an open marriage was, surprised her. But she could also see that, it wasn't like a normal, typical family dynamic. Mm-hmm. So she believed him and just left it as it was. So she took his word for it.
She didn't ask to meet her because if it's so open.
Well, here's so she just took his word for it, and she also wasn't she was also dating other people. So they were dating, but she was also still going on dates with other people. So Paul and Betty would invite Carolyn to the house, and they'd have dinner, and she'd have dinner over there with his daughter and his wife, and they would invite her to Kristen's basketball game, so they'd all go to the games and cheer on his daughter.
Wow.
So yeah.
The wife
to me,
knew what was going on, I'm guessing.
Okay, at this point, it does sound like she might know.
Didn't state that they talked about it openly, but they were.
Why else would this
Come on now.
college-age girl be coming
exactly?
to all
it's so
these
weird,
things?
right? So I was like, again, not my cup of tea, but hey, to each their own.
Yeah, to each
Some
their own.
people
If
like
that's what works for you.
So I guess she even ended up taking Kristen on a ski trip with Betty's permission because the daughter wanted to learn to ski or wanted to go on a ski trip, and she took her on a ski trip. And Paul and Carolyn's affair was going on for about a year and a half. On January 15th, 1989, Paul Solomon came home at 11:42 p.m. to find Betty dead on the living room floor of their apartment. She was pistol whipped in the head and shot 9 times in her back and legs. When police
Terrible shot.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way they described it and like from the pictures like of the autopsy, like it kind of looked like she was like fighting it off, like trying to protect herself or something. So when the police interviewed him, he said that he had been at a bowling alley with friends, and then he went to the Treetop Lounge at the Holiday Inn with Carolyn, where they had sex in her car. Classy. Granted, I'm not going to say I haven't had sex in a car, but...
There's a time and a place for
There's a time and a place and an age for everything. So, yeah. So, in the early morning hours, the police showed up at Carolyn's house to check out Paul's alibi. Carolyn was completely shocked, and the first question out of her mouth was, is Paul and Kristen okay? Because they had informed her that Betty had been murdered. They informed her that they were okay, but Paul was the main suspect. So they were asking about the alibi. She was in disbelief, but she was completely cooperative with them. Like, it was early in the morning, they woke her up, and they asked her to go down to the police station, and she went with them. Like, no questions about it, just was very, very cooperative. They asked her how Paul seemed, and I guess it was like, I think they drove her down, like, it was like 6:45 in the morning by the time they started the interview, so it was really early. They asked her how Paul seemed. She said he was friendly. He seemed normal, friendly, and attentive. And when they asked her if he loved his wife, she replied that he does love her, that they share a life and a daughter together for 15 years, but he is not in love with her.
That's not a very smart thing to say when you're being interviewed regarding the murder of your wife.
But they already know that they're having a relationship. Mm-hmm. So, like, they're just being open about the open relationship.
You might as well,
in a way,
I guess,
she's not hiding anything. She's just like, this is what, that he's not in love with her. So when the detective was like, he didn't understand how you can love someone and not be in love with them, she said, look, I'm just telling you what he told me. Which I think is an honest answer because, I don't know. So after interviewing Carolyn and the others at the bowling alley, the police no longer looked at Paul as a suspect, so they started looking elsewhere. Carolyn and other coworkers went to Betty's memorial that they had on January 20th in 1989. Shortly after the memorial, Carolyn reached out to Paul to ask him like when they would see each other, and he replied that they weren't going to see each other for a while because he needs to focus on his daughter with the tragedy and everything. So she asked him how, if he still wanted to keep in touch and if it was all right if she wrote some letters to him because she was now working in a different school district. Mm-hmm. He told her that was fine and just to drop them off in his work mailbox or whatever. Like, she could drop the letters off. So she stated that she felt like that was her way of like keeping in touch with a friend who was going through a hard time, like trying to like bring a sense of normalcy. So she said she'd write like, it'd just be little things like, we did this, because he's also her mentor too. Mm-hmm. So she'd like send pictures and letters of like what she did at the school, and I dressed up like this, and like just filling him in on what she was doing in her new job. So just a few.
I dressed up like this, like telling him what she wore.
No. Oh, sorry. Like they did a play. I dressed up like a donkey with the kids.
Okay.
And yeah, sorry. I should have been more specific. Like if she did a play at school, like
today I wore that skirt.
Today I wore that skirt, my legs, baby. No. No, like if she, the way she dressed up for like the play that they put on or whatever. So
day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, just keeping in touch. This is her side of the story. So a few weeks after that memorial, the apartment was released from the police as a crime scene, and Paul and his daughter moved back in, which the police found it weird.
How long later?
A few weeks after the memorial. Okay. So, like, maybe a month tops. Mm-hmm. But they said there were still, like, blood stains on the carpet and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like, one of the detectives they were interviewing, they were like, I don't know if it was just, like, financial reasons, or he's like, I don't know why. He's like, personally, I don't think I'd want to bring my kid back there, but everyone, if you're
at least not before cleaning everything up.
Well, I don't. Yeah, so that struck some people as weird, including Carolyn. She was like, who would do that? Like, that's strange. Like, your mother died in there and now you're back in there. Like, I wouldn't sleep personally, but
that's rough.
Yeah, so that was a bit strange. It did make people think that's weird, but also, like, if you don't have any money, like, to go somewhere else, it's kind of expensive to move.
Teachers are underpaid, that's for sure.
That is true.
So, during many months of the investigation, the police did find out that Betty had been seeing, she did have a long-time affair, so she was seeing other people. So that was something she was doing. She was seeing her supervisor, John Bourne. When the police questioned him, at first he lied about it. So they kind of like pushed again. They're like, they had a feeling like he's not being honest.
This is so messy already.
Yeah. So then they brought him in. He eventually did admit that he did have a relationship with her, but it had ended a while ago. And when they checked out his alibi, he was cleared. Like, he was busy during the murder. So another tip that they had gotten was from an unnamed woman. They didn't say who it was. That they should look into Paul's attorney. His name is Gary. Okay, I'm going to have to, like, just guess this. Pillersblore? I don't even know. I couldn't even, like, understand what they were saying. I kept rewinding, like, what is his last name? I'm just going to call him Gary. Lawyer Gary.
Gary the lawyer.
Gary the lawyer. That they should look into him because when she was at a luncheon with him, he kept going on about how he knew how to get away with murder and he knew how to do the perfect murder, blah, blah, blah. So the police obviously looked into this tip, and it turns out it was a big fat freaking waste of time because the person that ended up submitting that tip, I guess, had a bad, like, work relationship, and it was just a whole...
It was more like a vengeful
It was a vengeful bullshit tip, and it turned out to be nothing. So they were annoyed that they just wasted time on that.
Imagine hating your coworker so much that you send in an anonymous tip.
I know, like, you
them.
should really look at that guy. There's blood on his hands. So after 6 months, thousands of interviews, there were leads going nowhere. They stopped looking at Paul, but then after 6 months, like, he's the only, they still kind of had him on the back burner, like, he's the only one that they really could think, like, what the motive would be. But everything did pan out, so they were kind of going nowhere. So Detective Richard Constantino decided to go over the crime scene photos and go over everything, just sit down and just look at it all, because the community was starting to get frustrated.
I feel like they should have done that initially, but okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think...
Maybe he was just going back with fresh eyes.
Yeah, he was going back and going over all of it. Like, I think originally you're just collecting it. And then you kind of, like, sit down,
Sometimes
like, all right.
you need to step away from stuff and then come back
they've
and
just
look
been
at it again.
following
I just
leads.
like to shit on cops sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, so he stopped, he went back, he's looking at it, and he realized that, like, there was in the crime scene photo, there was a glove, like, literally like a foot away from the body. So he goes into the evidence stuff, and there's no bagged glove. So he starts asking around. No one bagged it. Then also he's like, all right, let me go over the ballistics testing, because they finally got that back. So I think he did those all around the same time. He did the ballistics. He sat down and looked at everything. They did find a fingerprint in the house that was never, like, matched to anyone. But again, it could be nothing. It could be something. But there was just one fingerprint that they couldn't match to anybody.
Any of their current suspects.
Exactly. Everyone that's been involved. And then even later on, like, it didn't match anyone that they talked to. So when Paul found her, the police that were there, like, originally, I guess they said he was covered in blood. So I guess he ran to her, touched her, whatever, to see if she was okay. And before they could do the gunpowder test, they let him wash his hands. So basically it made it, like, void. Like, he would have washed the gunpowder off. It was completely, like, they should have did the test and then let him wash his hands. So that was a big screw up. So there were, like, a lot of things in this case where, like, they kind of botched it. They botched the crime scene. They definitely did things wrong. Oh. Yeah. And then the gun, it was a Beretta Jetfire that holds 8 rounds in the clip and 1 in the chamber. So 9 shots total, which is what she was shot 9 times.
So they unloaded that thing.
They unloaded it. And basically, yeah, so 9 shots, unloaded it, that's it. And then when they were looking at the bullet fragments, it showed that the bullets had gone through a silencer, which kind of explains why no one heard anything either. So, because I guess you can see the different markings, they knew that a silencer was on that gun.
That's a big clue right there.
Goodness.
Yeah, there's no reason to keep your
There's
gun
only
silent.
malicious intent with the silencer.
Or maybe you just wanted to be quiet.
Yeah, I don't want to wake my neighbors when I kill this intruder. I don't know.
So, also 6 months later, Carolyn went home one night and Paul was waiting by her place. And I guess he asked her, so they hadn't seen each other really. Like she was writing to him at first for a while, but then she said that it kind of tapered off and she was already dating someone else and they hadn't really seen each other since the memorial.
This is weird though, because I would think Paul immediately, because motive being that he wants to be with her unobstructed or whatever. But if they're not even really communicating after this
unless
death,
you're being smart and you're like, I'm going to kill my wife and then lay low. You know? I don't know. We'll see. This is interesting.
Sounds like it was kind of unobstructed already, but...
Yeah, exactly.
that too.
They didn't really have to sneak around.
Yeah, they were
doing their own
already
thing.
doing it in her face.
And she was seeing someone too.
Okay with it, yeah.
So,
Messy, messy, messy.
yeah, things get complicated. Like my mom always said, sex makes everything complicated.
Is that what she said during
When I
the
was
sex
younger.
talk?
Yeah, just makes everything complicated. Duly noted, Mom. But so she came home one night and he was waiting for her. So they started talking. He asked her if she had anything to do with it. So she told him no, I had nothing to do with it. And she asked him, did you have anything to do with it? And he said no. And I guess that was why he was there. But then they rekindled their relationship, clearly. Or at least, that night.
They were both like, okay, well, if you don't have anything to do with it,
Let's just do it.
let's just do it in the car again.
Right here in the hallway. So I lost track of time when I was writing my stuff, either days or weeks later. Carolyn went home to visit her family. And while she was home, she was checking her answering machine, because that's what people did back in the day. You had to call into your own answering machine, because your phone wasn't always with you. And I guess Paul had left her a message saying that he was going to Puerto Rico and invited her to go. So instead of flying home, she changed her plans and flew down to Puerto Rico to meet him. Well, when she got there, she got to the hotel, and I guess he wasn't there yet, so she checked in at a hotel next door and left him a message like, I'm here, let me know when you get here. Then she didn't hear from him, and she called a few times, and he ended up blowing her off. So she's in Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico?
Yes. So she ended up as time went on, she was like, okay, what's going on? She called a few of their friends, mutual friends, oh, have you heard from him? Then I guess she ended up calling his lawyer, which I thought weird, but I guess if that's someone who he's close with, I don't know. And asked him if he heard from Paul, because she was in Puerto Rico. He had left her a message to meet him there, all this stuff. Well, she ends up going home, and then Paul made it he used that, he turned it around, and when she finally did get a hold of him, he was like, this needs to stop, you need to go your way, I need to go mine. And she was like, what are you talking about? I've got the message on my answering machine. And he was acting like she was being crazy. Because
she's obsessed with me. She followed me to Puerto Rico type
but
thing.
he was down there with another girlfriend, and he ended up leaving early when he found out.
What the fuck?
So was it this big orchestrated thing? Or was it legitimately she was stalking him? This is where
But she has the message telling
This is
her
what she
to
says.
come down to Puerto Rico.
This is what she says. We never hear the message.
Oh.
So
Well, that's your saving grace, girl.
I know.
What did you
better
do
have
with the
that
message?
me personally would have that. I'd be like, this is going to be encased in a
Yes.
fireproof vault. Fuck you. But
We're going to upload this to YouTube, and everyone's going to listen to it.
yeah, they didn't have YouTube then though. This is the 80s or early 90s.
We're going to, I don't know. What
So
did
yeah,
they
when she
do?
finally did get a hold of him, he was like, I already told you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I think it's recorded too, the conversation of she's like, I have a recording. What are you talking about? And he's like, you need to go your way. I need to go mine, blah, blah. He told the police that she followed him down there. He packed up with his girlfriend and left early because he was afraid for his life.
Oh my gosh.
All this stuff.
He's trying to frame her.
Well, that's what it kind of seems like. So basically, okay, so then he went to the police, told them that. So they start looking in at her. Now she seems a little, because she wasn't a suspect. She just verified she was the mistress or the girlfriend, and she verified his alibi, and they were like, they had moved on from her. But after this, they started to look at her a little bit more okay, what is this about? She's just showing up. He's making it sound like she's obsessed and he's afraid. So they start digging into her, and they're saying what they found was that she had a history of
Stalking?
basically getting a little intense with her boyfriends. Yeah. And then finally, like, they found this PI, this private investigator that came forward. His name is Vincent Parco. But he's a character in himself, too. It's very interesting. So he comes forward saying that that Carolyn had hired him to look into this bartender she was dating, Matt, and then asked him to falsify pictures of her with Matt because he assumed that she wanted to use them to break up him and his wife because he was married. And it's funny because they interview the cop, the PI, and they interview her. She says she did hire a PI, but she didn't know he was married, and she hired the PI to find out if this guy was married because she didn't want to go down that road again. The cop is saying the PI full-blown said that this is what her plan was and this is what she wanted to do. The PI's like, she asked me to make these pictures, but I don't know what she wanted to do with them. So you're getting 3 versions here. It's really weird. So they look into her, they're finding that, she's got like possessive behavior with boyfriends. The letters came up that she was writing him and leaving in his mailbox. Oh, then the PI also claimed that he sold her a gun. And it was the same gun that was used in the murder, and he also said that he got her a silencer. He says he got her a silencer because in case she wanted to practice shooting outside, her neighbors wouldn't complain. Now,
wow, this PI is a dumbass.
What kind of service is this?
Exactly. It's very weird. So, but she was saying that no, she never got a gun. He's claiming yes. So there's a lot of he said, she said. So they ended up giving this PI guy immunity to go against her because technically that's illegal what he did.
Yep.
So, and they ended up giving Paul immunity to also testify against her. Which is interesting because if he was in the clear, what does he need immunity for? But basically everyone's turning on her, they're getting offered immunity, and everyone starts turning on her. They arrested her on February 2nd, 1990. Of charges of second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Now, one of the things that they did say that this is where it gets so tricky, in the court process. They're saying that they have phone records of her calling the new girlfriend. Her name is Barbara Ballard, calling her roommate and pretending to be someone else to find out where she was. And then Barbara Ballard's mother said she got a random phone call saying that someone claiming to be a police was asking where she basically saying that they said that Carolyn was calling
Trying to stalk them?
Trying to find out where they were, and that's how she found out they were in Puerto Rico. So the prosecution showed one set of phone records and the defense showed a different set. So there was contradictory things going on. Exactly.
Where did she pull these phone records from?
So someone falsified phone records. But
that sounds difficult.
It's very different. This whole thing is very
I don't know
up
how
in
to
the air. After they arrested her
records.
too, it went wild because the papers went crazy with Fatal Attraction, which had come out just a few years before this. So they went ballistic with the headlines: the femme fatale, Fatal Attraction killer. Then every time she got out, she gets out of. There's a famous picture of her getting out of a limousine in this peach, super 80s looking I guess a suit for women, but it's a skirt, and she has a hat and sunglasses, and it looks really swanky and she's a socialite, getting out of a car. And they attacked her saying, who goes to court like that, blah, 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 all this stuff. When she's talking, she said, I had the sunglasses on because my lawyer said, wear sunglasses, there's going to be a lot of cameras. And then she said that she's part of it was I looked like I was wearing something more promiscuous because she was sitting on the other side of the car and had to slide over, and her skirt kept going up. So it looked really short, even though it was much longer.
We've all been there.
Yeah. And she's saying it's just because the media gets crazy. This thing went ballistic. Granted, yeah, she looked a bit much, but you also kind of have to remember she kind of comes from a lot too. So would I be wearing a hat and some weird suit? No, but
I feel I would, especially if I've never been to court. I'd be I gotta look my best.
There's a lot of cameras there, but they really attacked her for what she was wearing. This was just total 80s. The man, even though he's a cheating pig too, but she's the mistress and she's crazy. So and also that movie Like, they just went nuts. So she was kind of like screwed right from the beginning when it comes to that perspective of what was going on. Granted, and she even says, I was not right for dating him, but I was really young. I was dating a lot of people. You know, like, I've never made that mistake, but, you know, you make more mistakes when you're young, you know? But, again, there's a lot there. Like, I don't want to say I fully believe her, and I don't want to say I don't believe her. There's just a lot. So she goes to court. The court process goes on for, I think, the trial was 3 months. And when the jury went out to deliberate, they were deliberating for 12 days. Ooh. And when they came back, it was 8-4 hung jury. It was a mistrial. The second trial was January of 92. And the judge allowed in, it was the same judge for both trials. The judge allowed in, I guess, out of nowhere. Oh, that's the thing, too. So the glove that the detective had found in the picture, and when he went to go find the glove in the evidence box, it was gone. All of a sudden, for the second trial, they have this glove, and it's bloody. And they can't really prove if it was hers. There's no proof. There's nothing linking her to the glove.
How did it suddenly appear?
They don't have any proof of, like, how did you just lose it and then find it?
How do they prove
But the
glove?
judge still allowed it in. So as to evidence. So with the second trial, I think it
was there a chain of custody? Because we all know, chain of custody is like a big deal.
There was no proof. So that's what they were saying. Like, there was no proof of, like,
and it was still allowed,
and he allowed it in. So
it's crazy.
They did the whole trial, and then I think the jury deliberated for about 6 days, and they all came back guilty. Oof. So, on June 26, 92, Judge John Carey, who presided over both of the trials, imposed the maximum term of 25 years to life in prison for murder, the maximum sentence to 5 to 15 committed for the weapon charge. His quote is saying this about her, about Carolyn. A hideous act, a most extreme, illegal, and wanton murder.
Wanton,
yeah. And then he said, no community which hopes to be proud by the rule of law can tolerate any such merciless slaughter. That's how he felt about her. She, to the end, said she was innocent. She didn't do it. So she was in jail for, how many years was it?
She went to jail.
She went to jail for 27 years.
27? What?
27 years. She ended up having
She never admitted guilt?
Her lawyer states that she could have probably been out sooner, but because every time she went for parole, she would not, you have to, like, take responsibility and say you're sorry. She wouldn't. She said she didn't do it. Every time. So she served 27 years before she even was let out.
Oh,
she ended up having a lot of health issues. Like, her right side's, like, paralyzed. She has no vision in one eye. And she kind of, like, drooped. It almost looks like she had a stroke because she had a brain tumor. Yeah, so she had a brain tumor being in prison. Like, healthcare isn't top notch, so it went on much longer. So she's got a lot of health issues and everything.
This is not what I expected.
Yeah, no, she went to jail. They sent her in. She didn't get granted parole until June 17th, 2019. And she's still fighting to exonerate herself. She's like, who keeps fighting? She keeps fighting to exonerate herself.
If you really didn't do it, you would continue to fight. If you did it, you'd be like, okay, whatever, I did my time. Let me just go live my life now.
Oh, yeah,
especially because let's be real, she doesn't really have to work. Her father was a multi-millionaire. She's got a good inheritance. Yeah, I'd just be like,
book tour.
Yeah. So there's still other, like, I didn't get too I think she still has developments coming up because, like, she said she's still fighting. Like, she wants to prove, like, she wants to.
Well, she hasn't been free for that long. 2019 wasn't that long ago.
But here's the thing. It's like, it seems like, did she really do it? But then also, when you watch it, like, some of that is really incriminating. Are those phone calls real? Like, is she falsifying it, or is he? Because, like, there was another boyfriend she had when they said that they looked into these boyfriends. There was a guy from, she had a restraining order taken out against her from one of her boyfriends in college.
That doesn't look good for her, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she murdered someone.
Exactly. But that's the thing about this case, is, like, they're using that, like, look, she stalks men. She's got a history. She stated that she was dating this guy, and then he decided to go back with his ex-girlfriend, and right after he did that, because she would like leave notes on his car or whatever. They were dating, and all of a sudden she found out he was back with the girlfriend because she got the restraining order saying that he put in all these things. And it could have been that his girlfriend was like, all right, you can't have anything to do with her. This is what I want you to do. Or she is crazy. Like, it's everything in this case is one of those things where it's like, oh, I totally see it, but also this.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally see it, but then also this. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to know because she does. Yeah, she comes
What
across
happened
nuts.
to him?
Paul got away with. Everyone had immunity, but her. Everyone. So, yeah, and that's the big headline: the Fatal Attraction murderers or killer.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So many
so
questions.
there's
I
still
don't know if I think
questions.
she
It's
did
not really.
it.
I don't feel like it's so wrapped up because
It's
like
not wrapped up, and you know how much I hate that.
I know. I mean, technically it's wrapped up, but also it feels like
No, there's a lot of
there's
loose
so
ends
much
here.
But you just can't. I can't honestly. I'm neutral. I have no clue. Part of me, I see both sides of it, and it's like a big mind fuck.
I feel like if she did it, at this point, she's out of jail. She has no threat of going back to jail.
And she's loaded, so it's not even like she's like got to fight.
I
Yeah,
think
she doesn't
I was
have to be
falsely
doing
incriminated,
that.
and I need money to live.
Yeah.
But I'm
She's
just thinking.
loaded.
She could just be enjoying her life, doing
I'm just
rich
thinking
people
as a
things.
consumer how I would love to say, yeah, I did it, and then tell how. But no.
Yeah, no,
She could
she's
just
fighting
be
it. She wants.
synchronized swimming all day.
Yeah,
but instead
exactly.
she's doing.
I mean, let's be real. Her father back then, his estate was what, like 115, 150 million.
Definitely a billionaire in today's
Nowadays, a billionaire.
Right.
I don't care how many siblings you have. That's a good chunk of money. And she only had 2 other siblings. That's a hefty chunk. That's quite the trust fund. So yeah. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. I do recommend watching it on Oxygen. I love Oxygen.
What's it called?
Oxygen does have good stuff.
Fatal Attraction Murder or Killer.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. I think it's like 2-3 parts, something like that.
So you're neutral.
I'm neutral because I hate to be like,
She's innocent.
it's funny. It's like, but I can see both sides of it. I can see
Yeah.
someone being totally nuts, but I can also see him being like, what if he just wanted to get rid of his wife? Like, what if he, you know what I mean? Like, even though they had that set up, maybe he was just, because, it's cheaper to keep her. What if he really did want to move on and just not have to pay alimony or not have to pay?
What do you think, Melody?
I don't know. I kind of don't feel like she did it.
I kind of get that feeling too, but I don't know.
It might have been the way I
But I
presented it.
don't know if I'm 100% sure that he did it because I didn't hear enough evidence that like points directly to him.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel the whole glove thing is suspicious.
That's
like
suspicious.
why didn't it get picked up? Why was it in the photo but no one picked it up?
Well, here's
And how
the
did
thing.
it
What they did
magically
say is
reoccur?
because this neighborhood, they didn't have a lot of crime. It was like a really good area. So they were not really well versed in how to handle that kind of a situation. Shocking. And they also, even the lead detective admits, he's like, things were done wrong. There were mistakes made. They pretty much botched it. But when you botch something, you can't convict somebody. That's just my point of view.
Well, the
and
glove-
also,
They let him wash his hands.
But
Yeah.
also, they let him wash his hands, and there's a recording of them on the radio being like, "Don't let him wash his hands," and they did.
No.
Because they didn't know what they were doing. You know what I mean? Like, I think the cops that were first there, and then also
They'll
with
let
her
him
though,
wash his hands.
I
Oh, he
can
already
totally
did.
see her just being an innocent bystander, but I can also see when you look at some of the things that they show, like the phone record, it's pretty damning evidence to be like, you're kind of stalking him. But then again, when she has her side of it, you're like, I don't know. I'm neutral.
The silencer is a big one for me, but then
Because that's
again-
weird too, the silencer.
But unloading the gun, and you said she only whoever only hit the back or the legs.
That's what it said, the back and her legs.
They're a bad shot.
Someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, or I don't know. So, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. But there is one of the... Hold on. So here's another witness that came forward. Sorry. One of the school nurse that she worked with came forward and said that Carolyn did tell her that she ended up having to get a gun. That she didn't have bullets, that she had to get a gun. So she actually testified against her, too, saying that she told her that. Their big thing was, why would this woman who has nothing to do with anything, she's not going to gain anything from this. why would she come forward and say that?
Why did she say that she had to get a gun?
I don't remember.
Because America.
Because America. Second Amendment right.
Because it's her Second Amendment right to do it.
She will. No, but it's so iffy. It's hard to know who's telling the truth because, again, when you botch a case or when you botch a crime scene or when you have so many mistakes, it's hard to like take anything for what they're saying. I think it's like, I agree. Why would this woman who works with her come forward to say anything bad about her for no reason? Because everyone else, if you remember, had immunity. So they had a reason. They're looking at it for themselves. Oh, yeah, she did it, not me.
Yep.
So this is the only person that said something negative about her that had nothing to do with it. But also, we don't know this person. What if she's a busybody? You know what I mean? Like, it's just all of it to me. I can't make a decision. I don't know. But you guys should watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I'm curious what our listeners think as well.
I know. Everyone watch it and then tell me what you think.
Comment in the Instagram posts.
Or an email. Send an email. mostmacablepod@gmail.com. Yeah, so that's my story. That's my opinion.
Very good
I am
story.
so
Stressed out?
stressed out because you know how much I hate whenever something isn't neatly wrapped up. So now I'm just like, what the fuck happened?
Well, according to our stellar justice system, it's all been wrapped up.
It's been wrapped up. Technically.
It's solved.
Case closed.
That's true. Somebody served time. It's been solved. There's nothing left to do.
But it's messy. It was so messy.
The
And then also
prosecutor
they were
got their
saying how like
conviction.
so many people didn't feel that she got a fair trial because of the media, which we all hear about that. I mean,
Well,
it is
not
what
a
it
lie.
is. No, it's not a lie. But yeah, I was like, this is a good one.
That was a good one.
It was a good one.
The
I was
gears
really
are
sucked
spinning
into
in my
it.
brain.
I know. I still don't have an opinion on
I'm
it.
stressed out.
Poor
Did
Melody.
this on purpose.
I did this to you.
Maybe we'll find out one day.
I know. Who knows? But she's
I'm like over here rocking back and forth.
I know. I really did stress it. Have another glass of wine.
All right, this is hard on those.
I think I'll do that.
Okay.
That was good.
Thank you.
But I'm mad at you.
Oh, and speaking of Potato's my sister's dog when we talked about the eye. And she just lost her eye to a little accident. And there's a GoFundMe, Prayers for Potato, if you want to donate to that for medical coverage.
Poor dog.
Poor
Post
Potato.
Potato's pictures
I'll have
too.
to post Potato's picture. Poor Potato. 4-pound
Sweet
potato.
baby.
Sweet potato.
Sweet baby 4-pound potato.
Sweet potato is now a mashed potato.
It's a mashed potato.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you keep listening, and we'll see you
Come
next
back
time.
next week.
Bye.
And the week after that.